You are listening to the Social Science KLAI-descope. What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the Social Science KLAI-descope with your host, KLAI. None of you can see the video of this unless you're watching this on YouTube when I post it, but I have another special guest today. But before we get into that, be sure to follow the podcast on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, or anywhere else podcasts are found. Feel free to follow the socials for the podcast on Instagram at KLAI.descope or follow my Twitter at KMDLAI. All right. I'm going to get into the episode. It's going to be a good one because today we have another New York Fed RA that I worked with, and she is also amazing like my other guests, but she's done a lot, and we've known each other even before the job started during our internship program where we were all crammed into one room. And so she's just a wonderful human being to talk to. And she is on her way to doing amazing things at her PhD program right now. It's Karen Nee.
Wow, thank you for such a flattering introduction.
Of course. So yeah, it's been a while since I've seen you in person, and it's been a while, I think, since I've actually talked to you. So how have you been?
You're right. I mean, it has been a while. Definitely did not expect our last time seeing each other to be about a year ago when we unexpectedly left the office. Things have been going as well as they could be, I think, given the present circumstances.
Awesome. That's really good to hear. I mean, of course, you seem alive and well right now, so very happy about that. And so for the people out there that don't know who you are, can you do a quick intro of yourself?
Sure. So my name is Karen. I am a first-year student in the public policy PhD program at Harvard Kennedy School. I had previously worked for 2 years at the New York Fed with Kevin. Spent a lot of time doing research, cleaning data, all of the really fun stuff you get to do as an RA. Before then, I was a student at Wellesley College, studied there for my undergrad, and I majored in economics while I was there. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of like the resume rundown. I guess other than like my academic descriptions, I am currently based in Cambridge, Massachusetts. I've lived here, well, not in Cambridge, but in Massachusetts for basically my whole life. I love it here. Everyone who knows me knows that I keep talking about how Boston is a superior city to everywhere else. But I'm really, really happy to be here and really happy to be on Kevin's show.
Yeah, of course. Likewise, I'm happy that you accepted the invite to come on this show. I want to go beyond what your resume says and kind of hear your personal stories and your personal journeys studying economics, and then all the way up to your current PhD program right now. And so without further ado, let's just jump right into it. So you mentioned you studied or you majored in economics while you were at Wellesley College. How did you kind of come to that decision?
So I will say that before I came to college, I didn't really understand what economics was even about. I know that a lot of college students take economics courses in college, so I figured I should probably do the same thing because it's the college experience to have. But in all honesty, I definitely fall into camp of people who went into college thinking that they're never going to take another math class. I'm sure this is a very common story, the more that I hear from others. Yep. But truly, I had I wouldn't say a poor experience in high school with math, but it was just not a subject matter that I felt very engaged in. And the whole time that I was applying for college, I had thought that I was going to go into political science or maybe some other social science that would eventually lead me to law school. That was kind of my my goal at that point. Granted, I also didn't really know what political science fully entailed either. So during my first semester at Wellesley, I took one political science course and one introductory microeconomics course. And it was, I thought that I might as well get exposed to what economics really is. It sounded kind of fun based on the description of the course. And I had some friends who also were interested in it. So it felt like, it felt like a really cool thing to try. And I guess just after the first semester, I really felt like the material that we learned, even though a lot of it is very just, like supply and demand, very basic economic foundational concepts, I felt like it was really engaging. And it was really cool to me how through economics, you're able to model all of these really real life phenomena. Mm-hmm. And it was really cool to see this, I guess, this bridge of using quantitative measures to measure some social things that are happening. Mm-hmm. And so I was, I just told myself at the time, I'll keep taking economics until it's not fun anymore. And I will say there were some times where it did feel very not fun, and I was tempted to choose something else. But I'd say, like, through the encouragement of a lot of really great mentor figures, a lot of really great professors, I was able to overcome my fear of math and actually appreciate the quantitative aspects of the discipline. And eventually went on to complete the major and graduate. And here we are now.
That's amazing to hear. And yes, I agree with you there. I think I mentioned on a previous episode, I think it was the third episode, with Brendan, that both of us were like, yeah, we're never going to take a math class ever again in college. Yeah. And then here we are now. And it kind of resonates with your story as well. So I completely understand that. That being said, did you ever end up taking another political science course after your first semester, or
I did.
Just die out? Okay.
So the first semester I took an American politics course, and it was very interesting and fascinating, but it was also very new to me. I had no idea how in depth political science can go, especially the theory that is involved, and I ended up taking a few more classes because I was, during my time of being unsure about majors, and I figured it would be good to kind of have a foot in the door for many different things. But eventually I would say that my choice of going with an economics path was not really because political science was not enjoyable or that political science was not worthwhile, but it just felt that economics was more my speed of how I understand. It made more sense to me. It felt comfortable as a way to model things that are happening.
I see. Okay. Yeah, so that that makes sense. I'm glad you still enjoyed political science, but in the end you didn't major in it, and that's totally okay.
That is totally okay.
So you mentioned you had mentor figures that pushed you to be less afraid of math, and in some sense also push further into the discipline of economics. I will say for myself, my mentor figures were not necessarily professors that pushed me to do math, but actually upperclassmen. I had a really good friend in a year above me that actually encouraged me to like try more math classes, and that's what actually ended up pushing me to do a math major after my sophomore year. And so for you, I think you mentioned it was just mostly professors. Can you tell me how they supported you, mentored you to be less afraid and push deeper into economics?
Yeah, for sure. I say professors because I think that professors do carry a lot of weight and power, regardless of if they're a good professor, a less good professor. The professor, what a professor tells you really does impact the way that you think about yourself and your place within any subject matter. I think my first big roadblock was taking the intermediate micro class that was required for my major. I think that this class was known as the big filter class, where if you're not going to be an econ major, you decide that you're not going to be an econ major after failing this course, essentially. And it it was very difficult. I mean, microeconomics is definitely not easy, and there's not many people I know who are able to get it instantly. So I, like many others, was definitely struggling in that class and struggling to really be able to grasp everything that was being thrown at us. And the professor I had at the time, I didn't really know much about him because he was relatively new to my college at the time. And none of my friends had taken any classes with him before. So I wasn't really sure how he would be in terms of just being understanding about the fact that we're struggling and we're trying our best. And so we had our first midterm in the fall, and I just remember studying so hard for this midterm. Like, I never studied for anything as much as I did for that midterm. And I went in, it was timed. I just kind of gave in to the time pressure and really, really bombed that midterm. Like, there was no way to salvage what I did. I can't even say that, oh, like I tried my best and that's all. It really felt like it was just it was not a reflection of what I thought that I could do. And I felt just so bad about myself afterwards, especially knowing that this is the course that kind of filters people in and out of the major. And
Right.
just feeling really, really bad about that. And I remember that I turned in my exam and I went into my next class, which was my econometrics class. And I just sat there feeling so distracted and so terrible that I excused myself to use the bathroom. And then I went upstairs to my micro professor's office, because he had, I mean, I guess he didn't technically have open office hours, but I just showed up.
Yeah.
And I was like, I didn't know what to say. I was kind of almost in tears and just like, I don't think I should be an econ major because I did so poorly on your exam. Like, that was just not it was just not a good reflection of who I am, but also like I should be able to do this. So, why am I not getting this? Why am I not like understanding? And he was just so patient with me. He let me kind of cry it out a little bit, and then basically told me like, look, I totally understand. I've been there. I have failed tests before. I have done the same thing in graduate school too. It's hard and it's not easy for anyone. And you can be an econ major if you want to.
Yeah, so it's very interesting to hear kind of your undergraduate experiences, and thank you for sharing those thoughts. So I want to go into the next chapter or next arc of your life, essentially the 2 years you spent at the New York Fed, with I guess with me in some sense. But how was that, and how did that play an important role in terms of your research development, from like a topic standpoint?
That's a good question. I think it was definitely a really worthwhile journey in my, just in the lead up to where I am right now. Like I mentioned before, having been an RA in like an informal term and before coming to the New York Fed, I wasn't really fully prepared for just the extent to which research in real life would look like. And I remember just being completely overwhelmed in my first week there, simply because there's so many economists doing so many different things, and they're all very, very good at what they do. So it's just, you're working with these brilliant people constantly, and it's hard to not feel very much like I don't belong here. I think that in the beginning, my focus was really just to try to do the best work that I could. So anytime I got assigned something to do, whether it was a data project or something else, I tried to just produce like a high quality finished product that I could, show my manager and have her check off on, and then, move on to the next thing. And I think that a lot of that, especially during the first year as an RA, I felt myself really diving really deep into the work, but also I kind of lost sight of the ultimate goal of, being an RA. It's not just to learn how to code really fast. It's not just to produce this, research assistance work, but it's also to be able to develop your skills for doing your own research. And so for a whole year, I wasn't really thinking about what I actually was interested in myself. I was just doing the work. I did a lot of work in trade and some work in labor, and it was all very fascinating and important research, but I didn't really know if that was the area that I wanted to continue to go on in. And so I think it really wasn't until the second year when we started to apply for graduate schools that I had to really dig deep and figure out like what are the things that I'm really passionate about and what are the things that I would like to do. And um, a lot of it being driven by writing an NSF research proposal, kind of like preparing my personal statements. I realized that the thing that I really cared about was education. And it has been for a while. That was what I wrote my senior thesis on in my undergrad years, but I kind of tucked that away for a while. I stopped reading papers. I wasn't really keeping up with what was going on in that area of research. But that was the thing that I thought that I was really passionate about. And so I kind of, delved deep into that, wrote all my personal statements talking about how passionate I was about education. But then after all the applications were passed in, I remember thinking to myself, like, is education it? Like, that's the whole thing, or is there anything else? And I realized that there's just a lot of other things that really interest me, but I wasn't really sure how it fit into. I always thought that having a research agenda means that you need to be like very concise and clear as to what you care about and what you do. But I also cared about things like discrimination in the housing market and things like gender inequality in in the workplace and in certain like in responses to feedback and things like that. I think gradually I again, like with some mentoring and also just with some time, I was able to kind of make peace with myself and just kind of settle on being comfortable with not having everything figured out. I think that's how research works. Like you can't do this for life without caring immensely about the things that you study. And so I don't want to burn out right away. And I don't want to just feel like I, have like pinpointed myself into one thing and not ever be able to look at anything else other than that one subject. So.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And um, I also feel that as well. I don't like being boxed into a particular focus. I mean, some people operate like that, and that's totally fine. And I think because they exhibit enough passion, it works for them. But for me, it doesn't work like that. I definitely need options. I definitely want to go down different avenues. I do want to share this quick story because I think it's really wholesome in some sense. But when we were preparing for the NSF proposal, like Karen mentioned, and part of the NSF proposal is writing basically a research proposal, research idea that you would do. I do remember talking to Karen and another RA, Mary Kuroga. Shouts out, Mary, if you're listening.
Shout out, Mary.
But both of like we did, bounce ideas off each other. We wrote the proposals, we edited each other's proposals, and I thought that was just a really wholesome thing. And at the end of the day, I think I personally was less concerned about getting the proposal, more happy that this experience happened, and kind of that reminded me why I wanted to apply for a PhD program in the first place. I mean, from episode 2, you all know how that ended up, but that being said, I think that was kind of a story I wanted to share in terms of like the benefits of this type of work.
Yeah, I completely and wholeheartedly agree with what you just said. I think that those little our little sessions of just reviewing each other's proposals and kind of asking questions and figuring things out together really did remind me of like, oh yeah, this is why I wanted to do research. This is like exactly why I wanted to do it. So it's a really, really great time.
Right. And it also ties into kind of the other thing that you mentioned when you were saying like, oh, I want to kind of explore the other subjects. We were all interested in various different things. You were interested in education. Mary was interested in, I think at the time it was like surveying and macroeconomics. And then me, I was interested in like international finance and a little bit of, I guess in some sense like political economy, but we were all vastly interested in different things, and then somehow we still made that work. And so that was also a feat in itself. So,
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it is just like when you have good people surrounding you, you can really do a lot, even if your interests are very different and you're not working on the same things.
right.
Having a good team is really important.
Right. And so moving on from your New York Fed experience, research experience, and into your current PhD program, how has the PhD program been for you so far?
The PhD program, so this year is definitely very unique in that we've been completely remote since the fall, actually. And so for me, I don't really know what a normal year of first year at grad school is supposed to look like. Um, for the most part, I feel like I'm having the normal experience. This first year, we have two required sequences, one for microeconomics and one for econometrics. And then we also have two additional requirements. So I had to take a class in politics and governance, and this semester I'm taking a class in ethics and slash philosophy slash a lot of other categories. I mean, so far things have been going. I'm not going to say that it's not tough because I have been struggling through microeconomics just like I did as an undergrad. It doesn't go away, I guess. But it's really good to know that now that as a grad student, I think the biggest difference is that we're less grade focused and we're less competitive with each other. I didn't I didn't necessarily felt like I was overwhelmingly in a competitive situation in undergrad either. But I think because everyone's focused on getting good grades, you're less inclined to, really just step back and ask the questions and really take in the material as much as you want to just memorize things and do well on the exams. Every time that I find myself just kind of like, I got to learn this, I got to memorize how to do this, I kind of have to pull myself back and just be reminded that, hey, like you're not here to get A's on your like coursework. You're here to like figure out how you can use any of this information later on, because maybe it might be useful and maybe a lot of it is not going to be useful and I'll never reference it again. I think like not having so much focus on grades does help relieve some of the pressure, even though the courses are still very hard. There's a lot more independence. It's um, which is a good and bad thing. It's a lot less hand holding in that you kind of have to form your own study groups. You have to figure out your own schedule, figure out what material you don't understand so you can initiate the, question asking towards the teaching team. And it's a little bit different, but I do appreciate having this kind of structure because I think this is how a good model of how the rest of doing research is going to be like. So I guess the short answer is that it's going. I'm trying my best, but it's still hard.
Yeah, no, I completely understand. I mean, it is first year coursework, right, like you mentioned. So, it's only been microeconomics and econometrics, and I guess
Right.
have there been any kind of electives that you've taken, or is that kind of for second year?
So we have gotten a little bit of flexibility to take electives. So for my program, we're not required to take macroeconomics, which is a huge blessing and opens up some space in my schedule. A class I took last semester that I really enjoyed was this course called The Political Economy of the School. And so it was very much like, it felt, at least from the syllabus, it felt like it was just a survey course in education policy and education economics, which I figured, was a good, useful class to take, especially given my interests. But what was really unique about this course was that it wasn't just about reading the research and like, looking at tables and the data of what's been done, but we also had this practical aspect of the class. So every week, the professor would invite a practitioner from the field, either maybe like a school district superintendent or someone who has done work in desegregation of schools, or just like all these practitioners from the field who can shed light on what education policy actually looks like. And not only that, but half of our class were actually students from the ed school who come from a variety of backgrounds. We had some former principals, some school board members. Really cool to have a a class like this where we're all coming from different backgrounds, but also being exposed to all these different facets of education policy, like not just the economics of it, but the practical side and all of these other things.
Would you say that so far, based on all the classes you've taken, especially this elective class, did it kind of further your interest in actually pursuing education as maybe the direction for your, final set of papers or dissertation, or are you still very much kind of open-minded, seeking out other fields to maybe jump into as well?
I think that education will definitely be a huge role in my research. And so I hope that whatever research I do in the future will um, always have some kind of ties back to education and education policy.
Yeah, that's really cool to hear, and I'm really happy that you've had a good first year so far in terms of
Thank
coursework,
you.
and you're alive, as I've mentioned earlier. Um, how has the interaction with faculty been? Because it's all remote, right? And so it's not like you can see Professor A or Professor B down the hall or go to the office whenever. How has the kind of faculty to student interaction been?
Um, I think in general they've been trying their best to keep us connected. So we do still have office hours, except now it's like a Zoom room instead of going to the professor's actual office. Um, it has its perks. It's really convenient. I could just kind of roll up to my meeting a minute before it starts, but it does feel, slightly awkward at times, just simply because video calls can be kind of awkward just in general. I feel like this year has felt very much like, okay, just like get through this year of remote learning and it will get back to normal. But in hindsight, I think that I wish I would have spend more time just trying to drop in office hours, even if it's awkward, and just getting to know more faculty members in general.
I
So I
see.
hope that that's something that would happen next year when we maybe get back in person. Who knows?
Yeah, yeah. Hopefully that's the case, and hopefully maybe next year, if this podcast goes that long, I could have some in-person kind of interview instead of over video call. I do understand how awkward it could be in that
This isn't
setting.
awkward though.
I'm glad to hear that. Very glad to hear that. And so now, I mean, I think those are basically all the questions I had in terms of kind of your life story up till this point. I do want to actually jump into your personal research that you've been working on. So, like you mentioned, you were working on a thesis, and I think you told me at some point you were going to continue working on it, and then your NSF proposal was based on the kind of research that you did um, for your thesis. And so, I just want to jump into, are you working on any research right now? What projects, if any, like even now or before, did you find interesting that you wanted to highlight? What can we expect in the future?
um, so my research right now, it's not a super. It's definitely not. I don't have like a million things in the pipeline getting ready to fire out when
Sure,
the
I mean
time
you're still
comes.
young in
But
your career, so it's
thanks.
it's totally fine.
Yeah, I think that a lot of my research interests, as you mentioned, my undergrad thesis was in the topic of education and gender. So I um, did my project on the effects of professor gender in um, student major choice in STEM specifically. And the thing that kind of motivated that, it was just seeing the national statistics that women or female identifying individuals tend to be less likely to persist in STEM fields, both as undergrads and also in the future labor markets. And I just wanted to explore one aspect of that. So at the time I picked, the gender of your professor, seeing that professors can be seen as role models. They can really be seen as people that you look up to. And, does something as like small as gender have make any difference in a student's decision? And for my NSF proposal, I kind of use that as a jumping point and was trying to think about, okay, what are other areas that might influence students to choose majors like that would differ based on your gender. So one thing that I thought about at the time was peer effects, learning among other students who you can identify with, maybe like students of the same gender might, especially for women, learning, being in a STEM course with other women, does that make any difference? And having gone to a women's college, for me, I had a biased perspective that like, absolutely, like I really enjoyed my 4 years at a women's college especially because I felt that STEM was not this like super inaccessible field for me, that like I'm going to be one of the few women in class and have to like justify my existence of being there. So it's really thinking about peer effects, and peer effects are really difficult to study. The more I looked into it, the more I realized this is definitely not a very easy thing to disentangle. At the moment, I'm not actively working on either of those projects, but I am kind of thinking ahead to, I guess, future research. I'm not really sure what direction it will go. I think that I do still care a lot about looking at student major choice decisions, but having been exposed to more literature now, I think that there's some other dimensions that I would really love to explore. For instance, like social networks, especially when getting internships or jobs, just the importance of having a broad network versus maybe like not having as rich of a network, and like the relative importance that plays on someone's job search. I am working on some early research with a former professor of mine from Wellesley, and we're looking at how the 9/11 shock affected home prices centered around mosques and other religious buildings. So that's a very different direction from the things that I've done, but that's kind of like what I meant by, I really wanted to expand my exposure to different areas of research. And this was something that I did care about, like discrimination and attitudes. And so I think that this is a really exciting opportunity to be looking into a question like that. And yeah, I think that's all that I really have at the moment. I don't really know what's to come, other than I hope to keep pursuing these interests. I hope to like find a good research question down the road. Maybe like one day have a good instrumental variable pop up in my dreams. We'll see about that. But yeah.
Yeah. Like I mentioned, you're still so young in your career and you're like focused on your coursework right now, especially as a first year PhD student. But to hear that you are working on these types of research projects, both either if they're not being worked on right now, or you're working on them right now, is definitely very exciting to hear about, and definitely in the coming years looking forward to seeing your name pop up on as like working papers and like maybe even publications.
Yeah,
So
hopefully.
very excited to hear those things get started. Yeah. So that's really cool to hear the research that you were doing, and also likewise, it was very nice to hear about your personal journey and the courses that you're taking currently in your PhD program. And so now I want to jump into a more fun activity that
Yay.
kind of asks a little bit just to get to know you a little bit better. And so this is my Q&A game.
Mhm.
I don't know if you've watched previous episodes, but I've done this with most of my guests. There's slight variations here and there, but I'm going to be asking you a question, and just, off the top of your head, quickly just respond to the question. And if you want to follow up, feel free to share.
All right. I hope nothing embarrassing comes out.
I don't think so. I don't think these questions are embarrassing, but, that's up to
I have
the.
a tendency to embarrass myself usually, so even in unembarrassing situations. So
All
we'll
right.
see.
All right. So let's start off with a very easy question. What is your favorite color?
Purple.
Purple. Okay. What is the last thing you ate?
Oh. An impromptu hot dog.
Okay. Um, do you listen to podcasts?
I do.
Well,
I really love podcasts.
okay. So what has been your favorite podcast? You don't have to say this show.
Well, obviously, the kaleidoscope of social science is one of them.
Okay.
I do listen when new episodes drop,
Oh,
so
thank you.
I'm not lying about that. I really enjoy. I remember a lot of my commute times while I was still in New York was spent listening to podcasts. I really enjoyed podcast called Asian Boss Girl, which was created by three Asian American women who talk about just life, work, and experiences living in America as a like second gen immigrant. I love Reply All for the same reasons that many others love that podcast. I'm a little bit of a nerd in that aspect, and I'm sure there are others. They're just not coming to mind right now, but yeah.
No, I know about Asian Boss Girl. I think I listened to a couple of their episodes, and yeah, they do an amazing job. And it's
Definitely.
it was also just kind of born from a passion project as well, so it was really cool
Yeah.
to listen to it. What was the last song you listened to?
Oh. I wish it were something exciting, but if I'm honest, it was probably like something from the chill lo-fi beats
Okay.
to study to playlist.
Okay.
Yeah, I just needed some like noise in the background. So
Yeah, no, it's a
probably
popular thing to listen to. Don't
It's a
worry.
popular thing.
What is the last TV show you watched?
Oh, last TV show. Like watch like to completion or just like watch?
Just watched.
I've got introduced to Attack on Titan over my winter break, so I quickly binged through the first 3 seasons, and then now I'm currently following the present season, and it's coming to an end this week. So a lot of things are expecting to happen.
Excellent show. I love Attack on Titan as well. What was the last item you've purchased?
I think I bought a new wallet for myself because, my old one was falling apart, and I felt like now that I'm an adult graduate student, I ought to have some accessories.
Okay. How many hours of sleep do you get every night on average?
Maybe around 7.
Oh, that's pretty good. It's very
Six
good.
and a half to 7.
That's very good. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
We're trying. We're trying real hard.
It's better than me, so. Um, what is your biggest pet peeve?
Ooh, I don't know if this is a pet peeve, more of like an annoyance. I hate the sound of styrofoam, especially like when you remove something from a box that's like wrapped in styrofoam. It just
Oh.
like gives me the heebie-jeebies, and
Okay.
I hate it.
All right. And I think this is going to be my last question. What is your favorite New York Fed RA memory?
Oh, I thought you were going to ask who is your favorite New York
I mean,
Fed
it's obviously
RA?
me, but
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say Kevin, of course, but I feel like I might be making some enemies.
I'm just kidding. By the way, that was a joke. Don't take it seriously. Anyways, go on.
Memory. Oh, there's so many. It's hard to pick. I think one of my favorite memories is coming from the early days when we were interns and stuck in a hot, tiny little office with 11 people. We played a lot of games. We had like this office Olympics kind of thing going on, and it was really fun to share in shenanigans while we were trying to prove our worth as budding research assistants.
Yeah, that's definitely true. I do remember. There was like basically what it was like we were literally stuck in a room, probably as big as my current room,
Yeah.
11 of us, and then there was a wall that was a whiteboard, and then we just jotted down some like statistics of like who, I don't know, had the most pieces of paper tossed into a waste bucket consecutively, or like I don't know, like how many water coolers did someone change in a day or something
Oh, it
like
was
that.
like fastest time to change a water
Yeah, fastest
cooler.
time to change a water
Yeah.
cooler,
And
it's
those
very
things are
difficult.
real heavy,
Yeah,
so
it's very difficult, and so
it was.
Uh,
I think you held a record for something.
probably something very embarrassing that I do not want to
It
share.
was like fastest lunch or something.
Yeah, I have no idea. Maybe I was on there for a bit, but
Yeah.
but yeah, no, that was definitely fun. Okay, that's really cool. But yeah, that is everything I have for this episode. I just want to say thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, for
It was,
sure.
so great to catch up with you, but also just to hear about how things are going on your end and your experiences as well. I think I have a much better picture now of the things that you went to as compared to before when I was just like when we were just talking very casually, and like maybe we didn't really express as much. But now to have like a much more full picture of based on how you felt and where you are right now, it's just incredible journey, and definitely looking forward to all the things that you will accomplish as you get further into your PhD and into your career. But yeah,
Thank you for having me. This was a lot of fun.
that's very good to hear. Before we leave off, is there any social media, website, anything you want to plug at all?
No website. That is to come hopefully soon.
Okay.
Um, Honestly, I wish I were exciting enough to have social media to plug, but yeah, I follow me on LinkedIn, I guess.
There you have it. Go connect with Karen on LinkedIn, or if you have any questions in general, just go ahead and message her. I'm pretty sure she would be happy to
Yeah, I'd be happy
respond.
to respond.
Awesome. Well, anyways, once again, thank you so much for joining the show, Karen. It was a really great time to be able to catch up with you and to hear your thoughts and hear about your research and just everything about you in general.
Thanks,
Um,
Kevin.
for the listeners out there, as always, thank you so much for listening to another episode of the Social Science Kaleidoscope. And yeah, I have nothing more to say other than I hope to see you next time. Bye bye.